Hey everyone, it is Antoinette Montalvo for another episode of My Will, which is Women in Life and Leadership. This is our Montalvo International podcast, empowering women, especially with kingdom principles. I am so excited to be coming with you today on this journey with another podcast episode. I'm really excited for you to stay tuned, so hang tight. Hey everyone, it's Antoinette, your host of My Will, where the focus is for your will and my will to match up with his will. I am so excited to be hanging out with a dear friend who is doing amazing things. And I mean, I think you're really going to just feel like your whole life is going to get in order with this one. She is such a gift as it applies to organization and coaching and empowering women herself. And I'm really excited to share her expertise with you and a little bit of her experience. So I'd just like to introduce my friend, Brandi. Hey, Brandi, how are you?
I'm good, Antoinette. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm glad we were finally able to figure this out and get together because I think you have so much to offer, and especially for this particular theme and episode that we have, just centering around purpose and identity and just figuring out your calling and figuring out how to organize your life in a lot of ways. I think a lot of times as women, we sometimes just need someone else to help us get it kind of figured out and hold our hands through the organization and the accountability and the coaching. And I think you do that very, very well. And I know that you've done that kind of briefly for me, which was amazing in a short span of time. And so I am excited to share what you do with other people. So I don't know if you want to give a little background of you and your focus so that our listeners can hear about you.
Yeah, so I'm Brandi. I am a women's personal development coach. I have felt very passionate about women becoming all that God has called them to be for a very long time before I even knew what coaching was. I was just too big of a wimp in college to call my grandma and tell her, "Hey, grandma, you know that psych degree I was going to get? Psych! I'm going to be a life coach instead." So there's been a lot of soul searching personally, but yeah, no, I love to see women grow, and thank you for having me on this podcast.
Absolutely. And I think that speaks to the beauty and the depth of what you offer, right? Because if you haven't journeyed yourself, sometimes it's harder to help someone else kind of figure it out. So I think that adds a little bit of street cred for you, having to figure out where you wanted to go. And thinking about, this life coaching ministry business that you have, the things that you focus on, how did you get to this point? And what were your steps and areas of growth where you find yourself now? And maybe even evolving?
So it just started as a very innate desire. I looked around when I was younger, and I just felt like some of the fear, some of the attitudes, just things that I heard, I just felt like this isn't what God says. Like I just felt it was very it was a dichotomy of what we should be saying and declaring and how we should be living and what's in store for us, and where I saw a lot of women. And so perhaps judgmentally, I grew up saying, I'm not doing that. And then most of the stuff I did, but it just stayed with me that no, where I come from is not all there is for me. And to make it more practical, being in debt is not the way I'm going to live my life. There's something more, and no matter how it seems like I just made mistake after mistake after mistake. I mean, if you want to talk to somebody about messing up, then I'm your girl. But no matter how, down I got about it, I just could not bring myself. I couldn't make my mouth say God did not have good things for me, and God didn't have a purpose. And so that's what kept me going.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And I think that speaks a lot to just your character and just what it means to truly find that calling and that purpose is just understanding, you know what, despite all of my mess ups and my hang ups and everything else, there is something deeper and richer to me, regardless of the circumstances around me. And I think, you know, and I've gotten a chance, I think even before we got a chance to reconnect, to hear and follow, I guess I should say, a little bit of your journey. Because I know that you lived in Guam at one point, right? That you were there for, you know, quite a while. And then I've watched some of your finance journey, and that you've talked just, you know, very transparently about the steps that it takes to getting out of debt, and that step-by-step process is just, it's been really encouraging for me. I've connected with your newsletters and all the other things that came with it. And I think you have such a great down to earth and connectable way about it. And so I don't know if you can share a little bit about what prompted you to even start that particular aspect of your coaching, and maybe what your life was like, you know, before and after you really saw that you should kind of take this step forward into being available for women to be a professional developer and be able to kind of encourage them in that way.
So it started, just very optimistically,
Hmm.
when I'm 20, I'm going to have my life all together. I'm going to have a house by 21 and, a great career. So it started there. And then there, came a lot of very humbling moments, and humbling moments to the point to where it was like, you know, God, you have to have me, because I'm ashamed. I am, I'm regretful. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this.
Hmm.
And I remember I was walking, I was on campus, and I was walking on campus, and I just felt like I was just swallowed up by shame.
Hmm.
And I prayed for peace, and just instantly, like, it was lifted. And I can't even explain it, but all the stuff I was afraid of, and all the things I didn't want to get out, and all the things I didn't want to call home and tell my parents, it's like, it doesn't matter, Brandi.
Hmm.
You are still valuable, and you're still worthy. And so I just feel like I've had those moments a lot. And going to Guam was really, um, it was the beginning of a journey. I had just read The Alchemist, by Paulo Coelho, I think is how you say his name. I
Hmm.
probably butchered it.
That's all
But
right.
but just reading the story about how, where he started, and he had to take a journey just to find what was there all along.
Hmm.
And I was about to go to Guam, and I'm very reflective, like, what is this going to mean for me? And let me pray about making friends, and let me pray about friends for my 2-year-old. And I was doing that a year before we even left. So I'm
Hmm.
always thinking of my future, like, what am I going to miss when I'm there? Or, what do I really want to do when I'm there that I might forget once I'm there and away from family and I'm sad?
Hmm.
And I just knew there's something there. I don't know what it is. So I got there. I'm married. I have a 2-year-old daughter. We are 3 plane rides away from home, which is South Carolina. And I just, to be honest, I mean, it sounds so, like, really, but I prayed, and
Hmm.
I said, God, like, you have to have a purpose for me. What is it? And I was almost angry, angrily praying is how I, sometimes I say, like, I tried to jack God up, which we all know I can't do that. But I was like, look, you better tell me what I need to do. I'm wasting time. Why would you let me waste time? And that's kind of the attitude that I had. And he just reminded me of some of the things that I really wanted to do all along, but I was too afraid to do them. I thought I was, who am I? I'm only 19 years old, and I'm messing up, and I'm going to coach somebody. Yeah, right. And so just some of those things he brought full circle for me. And it was the most beautiful thing. I told my husband that I wanted to be a coach, and he was like, what is that? And I just started researching, honestly. Whenever I saw someone doing what it is I thought I wanted my life to look like, I reached out to them. And people were blogging, really, heavily back then. And I would just read every single article. What book did you read? What course did you take? And when I returned, I started watching The Happy Black Woman.
Hmm.
Her name is Rosetta Thurman,
Yeah.
and she had taken Valerie Burton's coaching course. And I was thinking, well, that's great. Valerie Burton is back in the States, and here I am in Guam, broke. First of all, I can't afford the course, but secondly, I can't even take it. And then when I moved back home, that's one of the first things I did. So now I am certified through the CAP Institute, and just writing down where you want to be, finding people who are there, and not letting those dreams drift away because they can't happen right at that moment.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. And that, I feel like that takes a lot of self-insight, but I think that was so rich and helpful of you saying that, one, just that understanding of just being reflective and being very intentional about praying and saying, you know what is it that I'm supposed to be doing? And I think that is something that is very important when you think about finding your calling and your purpose and just figuring out what your identity is just saying, you know what, this is outside of me and who I am. And maybe sometimes we don't think that deeply of it, or we don't think that is something so key to us getting clarity, but it really is. And then I think just having that patience and understanding and humility that it takes to say, even if I don't have all the answers, even if it doesn't look like I look like everyone else who may be in the sphere of doing what I want to do, or that I can't necessarily unpack everything right now, doesn't mean that that's a failure or that's it, or it's, I have no calling, I have no purpose. And so I appreciate that insight and that intentionality that you took, and just being vulnerable of sharing that. And so I think, flash forward now and fast forwarding to like where you are and what you've learned to this point, what do you feel like maybe are some of those bigger challenges or even some of those obstacles that maybe even, hampered you or hindered you a little bit in terms of embracing your purpose and calling and what you have in front of you right now, or what you have seen from opportunities that you've had to coach other women? What seems to really challenge people or put up that roadblock for people?
I would say one, lack of action.
Hmm.
I remember hearing on the radio or something where they were like, just because you can't afford a car doesn't mean you shouldn't step foot into a dealership.
Hmm.
And I have taken that with me, and I get excited about the smallest thing, Antoinette.
Yeah.
Like, I could literally have a phone call with you, and you could tell me that maybe one day, you'll ask me to be a part of your podcast. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Travis, that's my husband. Oh my gosh, Travis, Antoinette said one day, and he's like, well, when is she going to have a podcast? I'm like, I don't know. But one day she told me. And I think that just by me not being wrapped up in what can you do for me right now, that has really helped me, because every little step is a step forward.
Right.
Even sometimes taking a step back is going to help you take 3 steps forward.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very optimistic. I really do believe that God works everything together for the good of those who love him. And I will get excited about every little tiny step. And I can sometimes trace back, because that tree grew over there, you know,
Right.
and then the seed fell here, and oh my gosh, the cat picked it up, and then such and such. And a lot of people, they see a tree and they're like, but wait, I want a house over there. And they won't take the next step because it doesn't make sense and it doesn't look like what they feel their life should end up as.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the biggest hurdle for me to, when I'm coaching people, for them to see that, yes, go out, go to the meeting, go to the interview, go network, take that next step that you're supposed to be doing, but you keep talking yourself out of.
Right, right. No, that is crucial and so good, because I think it's very easy, especially I think sometimes as women, to psych ourselves out or trick ourselves into not proceeding forward. Who knows, maybe as a protective measure, as a fear of failure, as a fear of rejection, and and it can definitely stall us in many different areas, and stall us from being able to get one step closer. And I love that idea of those small wins. That's something that I often kind of speak to myself as well, of just every single little win is a win, regardless of how big or small. And so it's so true. And I think it also just speaks to just the level of commitment and discipline that you have towards your goal. Because I think, again, sometimes we can be very good at juggling so many different things that it's easy for us to put something that's very, important and valuable in the back burner, because we think, well, that's not panning out right now. So let me just step back from it, or it's not working out, or it's not where I need to be, or I need to divert my energy to something that makes more sense. And then we choose to just let whatever that thing is, that dream, that vision, that hope, die, without really embracing our full potential. And so I think it's so important, and I completely agree, just that understanding of taking that action, that small step, one step forward in moving towards it. And when you think about, just moving towards those goals, or finding that purpose and calling truly, do you have, like key tips or steps or things that have helped you organize and even balance your life? Because I know you're juggling a lot of different things, but you continue to press forward. How do you sort it all? How have you helped other women kind of sort it all, in terms of what are those big key steps or tips that you usually give?
I try to determine what's most important.
Hmm.
Like at the end of the day, I read something that said if you have more than three priorities, then you don't have any priorities.
That's good.
And I think that we put so many things, and we claim, all of these things are priorities, but at the end of the day, you can't fool yourself. You know what I mean? Like if I clean up all day long and my house is spotless, and my kids don't feel like I spent any time with them, or I know that I didn't play that fun game, or take 5 minutes to, help my 4-year-old with a puzzle, I am going to feel all of that at the end of the day, even with a clean house.
Right. Right.
Now, sometimes I'll play all day with the kids and I'm like, my house is a mess. And I know I should have cleaned out my closet like I said I was going to do. And I think our priorities, they change from day to day. At some point the house does have to be clean.
Right.
But I feel like it's a balancing act. I believe there's a group of guys, they're called ULA or something like that. And I read a lot, by the way. I don't remember the titles or the authors, but I can I can bring up a concept. So he was talking about how we have all these things spinning, and I think they have like 7 categories. So maybe like finances, fitness, family, career, health, that kind of thing.
Right.
And he was saying how we spin these plates, and as one starts to kind of wobble a little bit, you put more time into spinning that plate. And then everything's good. And as another one kind of wobbles a little bit, okay, let me go over here and focus on this. And so that's how I remain as balanced as I am, which um, I know that I want to have a good relationship with my parents, and I know that I want to have a great marriage, and I want to be a good mother on my terms, and I want to have a great career that fulfills me. And when something starts to wobble, it's like, uh-oh, haven't had a date night. Let me go ahead and schedule that. And I really do go straight to my planner, and I don't say, okay, well, honey, we're going to have one. I look at my time and I say, you know what? We're both free on Thursday. Let's go ahead and pin this in. Or I'll even pin in a book with my kid. If I've been putting her off because I have meetings or calls or whatnot, it's like, you know what? We're overdue for a book. We're overdue for some family fun time. I'm overdue for a long chat with my mom. And I schedule those things in, and I feel very satisfied because I know that I'm doing what I deem important, what needs to be paid attention to, if you will.
That's so good. And that, I feel like that speaks to me on a deep level, because I'm a big scheduler as well. And I love my planners, and I have planners on top of planners and sticky notes on top of sticky notes. And it's true. It's true. If you don't take action on it right then and there, then it can just continually be this kind of nebulous concept of like, I'm going to get to it. I'm going to get to it. And I think kind of in our current season that we find ourselves in, with so much going on in the world, that I think a lot of people are having to pull back the layers to say, I have to face this thing in front of me and actually do something and take some kind of action. And I guess to speak to the other side of the coin, or the other folks who may not be so schedule driven or planner driven, that might operate, off of spontaneity and just saying, it'll happen when it happens. Is that, is it sustainable, or what would you say to those people who may not really run by a schedule, but somehow they still want to make sure that time is intentional, or that balance, or that fulfillment looks positive in their life?
I feel like we all run by a schedule. Am I biased?
No, I mean, I don't know. I'm a scheduled person, so I'm like, of course. But there's folks out there who, they're real loose, and it's like, let the chips fall where they may, kind of thing. So I don't know, but I guess in some way we do all run by a schedule of some sorts.
Oh wow, that makes me cringe because I've let it fall where it may before and it didn't fall right. you know? I mean, I don't know how I would remember what I said was important, because I
Hmm.
feel like we can be very finicky,
Hmm.
and we can be very naive sometimes.
Hmm.
And what I don't want to do is look up 6 months or a year from now and I forgot
Yeah.
that I needed to do this in order to do this in order to do that, and now I can't do it because I never started.
Right. Right.
I came back from Guam, and I remember I asked someone, I was like, hey, what have you been up to? Like, what have I missed? And they were like, nothing. I was like, what? I've been gone for 3 years. And that happens more often than you know,
Hmm.
because if you put something off and you lie to yourself, which we do a lot,
Hmm.
you don't realize that it's really fear.
Hmm.
You don't realize what's really there. You'll psych yourself out and make yourself think something isn't that important. Someone will pass away, and you'll have a lot of I wish, and I should have.
Hmm.
And that is a fear for me, to get to the end of my life and realize, oh my gosh, at 30, I said I wanted to do this, and I never even started.
Hmm.
So, to someone that's not scheduled, I will tell them that there's a lot of evidence that says writing down your goals helps you to complete them a lot faster. How do you know what to pray for if you don't know where you're going? Where is your map? That's what I would say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone told me, hey, come to my house. I'm not going to wing it. I need to know, like, based on my house, how long is it going to take me to get there? What street do I turn on? I don't want to be lost. And so I would, just encourage them, however they want to schedule things, be it their phone, their planner, their whatever, to start to jot things down, maybe for a week or, 30 days, whatever, and see how that time frame goes, and see how it makes them feel.
Hmm.
And then they're going to feel better, duh. So then they're going to keep doing it.
Yeah. I like it. I definitely like it. And I mean, again, you speak my language, so I love it. Just hearing, I'm like, yes, yes, yes. I love all of it. And just thinking about, where you see yourself going from this point. What do you feel like you want to be your big goal? We're at the time of this recording, we're kind of a quarter of the way into 2020. What, if you don't mind sharing, what's a big goal that you feel like you're writing down and working towards, that is pointing towards your calling and your purpose?
Ooh, that's a good question. What's
I
a
know
big goal?
that's kind of a deep question.
It is. On my bathroom wall, I have the scripture of two or more agree.
Hmm.
Um, and then it's just a dot, dot, dot. And then I have a picture of a house, and a picture of a car, and a picture of, it's one more thing. I can't think of what the third thing is. Oh, maybe it's a car for my husband and myself. So 3 pictures.
Hmm.
And it's not so much about this specific, like the brand and that kind of thing. But I will say that we have had a goal of becoming debt free
Hmm.
by a certain age. And building the home that we have dreamed about and that kind of thing. And when I tell you, oh, we also have thermometers in the house. You know how where, you pay off the debt and you have the kids color in the next $1,000 or whatever. And our debt payoff has accelerated. We thought, and my husband, he's a big thinker. So I'm the person like, God can give me $1 million tomorrow if he wanted to. And my husband's like, but he's not, So we have that, like I'm always in the sky and he's always on the ground, and we just kind of keep each other level that way. But he's very calculated, so he could tell you to the T, when this should be paid off and etc. And we have just been, it's almost like money has been finding us. It's really weird. It's like, what is going on? Why, did we get an extra $300 back because our insurance paid too much on braces? Or, why is this happening? Why is that? And the date that he had, we've blown it out of the water. And so that's a really big goal, because we know that, we don't want to be the borrower. We want to be the lender.
Right.
We want to, set our kids up for success. We both had to pay for college, and we may have a different outlook once our kids are older. We have a 10 and a 4-year-old, but we definitely don't want them graduating in debt. And with a lot of debt that they now have to, really dig themselves out of. And so we just have a lot of goals financially, to be able to be in a position to bless our family members, to, bless our parents, and not to have to worry about where they go or who takes care of them, or can we travel, just things that you would consider living. Right. And people are really burdened by. So we spend a lot of time praying about, but also planning for our future, whatever future it is God has in store for us. So that's the biggest goal right there, is to become debt free, and to not have money be an obstacle for us, but to be able to use it as a tool to bless others.
No, that's great. And again, it just shows the mark of your discipline. And in many ways, it almost sounds like God's kind of meeting you guys in the middle too, because he honors that discipline and that time that you're taking. So as you said, money's finding you. So, hey, that million's coming in trickle by trickle. It may not be that one lump sum yet, but also too, he's honoring your discipline. And so it's faith without works is dead, right? That's what the scriptures say. So I think in a lot of ways, it's that beautiful melding. And I love how that's all wrapped up in just your understanding of just what he's called you to do. And I think that is a great, great, great key as well, just in thinking about balancing life, because, hey, we all want to get to that place where we are giving, more than we have to feel that we have to receive from it, and lending completely and not having to borrow, whether it be our time, talents, energy, finances, whatever the case may be. And that frees you up to really live truly and freely in your purpose and calling. So I love every bit of that. And I could listen all day long and just hear all these little tips, and I'm just soaking them up. But if someone wanted to find you and your business and your coaching, and if there's upcoming events that you have going on, how can they find you? This is your free space to just let the world know all about how to get to Brandi.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for sharing me to the world, Antoinette. If you want to find me, you can find me at womanlive.me. That's WOMANLIVE.me. I will not lie and say I keep that updated as much as I should, because sometimes I like to, I have to go through the lesson to be able to talk about it.
Yeah.
So, so sometimes I'll jump out there, but I've been finding myself a lot lately, just kind of wanting to make sure, like, taking a moment, am I doing what I need to do? And what are our goals? And are we doing what we should do to reach them? So, but you can always go there. I will always share my testimonies there, and my coaching packages, and really just the ear. I sometimes everything is so packaged nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Come hire me here, and come do this, and come look at that, and that's great. I feel like we're all able to make uh just a difference in our family life and the way we balance things because of social media. But sometimes you just need someone that you can be real with. And sometimes you just need to share things that you haven't even shared to yourself.
Yeah.
And I just want to be a blessing to you. I'm not afraid to share some tough moments of my life, because a lot of times that's where you really can get people to open up and let them know that they're not alone. So if you want to, I don't know, just read my journey and take what has helped me, um, and let it be a blessing to you. Please go to womanlive.me and read all about my story. Reach out to me. I will respond, and I'm rooting for you.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And we'll definitely have, your information in the show notes. But I so appreciate you just being a part of this episode and just being open and being practical and just being willing to share a piece of your life so that prayerfully someone else is empowered to really move forward in their calling and purpose too. So thank you so much, Brandi, for being a part of this episode. And we look forward to seeing the great things that God leads you towards and those goals being checked off the list for sure. So
Yes. God and goals. God and
yes,
goals.
there you go. There you go. So thanks everyone for tuning in for another episode of My Will. Again, where your will and my will match up with His will. This is Montalvo International Women in Life and Leadership. I'm your host, Antoinette Montalvo, and I'm so excited to see you live up to your kingdom-given purpose. We'll stay tuned and we'll check in with you very soon again and have another episode coming down the pipeline. Take care, all.